Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy stream. And for those of you who end up watching this on YouTube, happy holidays. I believe this one is going to end up going live on Christmas. Whether it's Christmas or the Saturnalia, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate, I hope you find something fun to do for the holidays in these tough times. So I owed the channel a bonus YouTube video, and I decided I would just go ahead and do it as a stream and then upload it that way because, people don't have a lot to do right now, and why not get chatting with a handful of people? So today we're going to be playing with FenrusCloud's Infect list. They've been one of the bigger moto grinders who has continued to work with the archetype, and they recently put together a sideboard guide, which I will go ahead and link to for the YouTube folks. They put together a sideboard guide and sort of like matchup analysis document that's really quite cool. And I had talked to them prior to this being updated, and then they went and updated it, and that was sort of my driving force to make me really want to go and give this a spin. So this is the game plan. I'm going to assume that most of you have seen Infect before. The general idea is to get one of Glistener Elf, Blighted Agent, or Inkmoth Nexus into play, and then play some number of pump spells that allow you to deal 10 infect damage, either in a single turn over the course of a few turns. The infect archetype was really championed by a handful of the folks from Roanoke, Tom Ross perhaps being one of the most notable, but like Brad and Todd and people like Nick Miller as well really picked up the deck list and put up some great results with it. These days, Infect isn't super popular, and yeah, we only need to count to 10, and sometimes we don't even need to do it in one step, so hopefully we go and get some opponents dead. There are some interesting things about this version of Infect. Number one, we have Oko and Uro in the main deck. Now, these cards do not have a... They don't have direct synergy with the Infect plan most of the time, but they're just such powerful cards that you really, really, really want to shove them into your Simic decks. Yeah, so as chat has already picked up on, this deck is splashing white in the sideboard, but specifically the Savannah is not in the main deck. Now, why might that be? It actually has to do with Uro. So Uro, to escape it, requires green, green, blue, blue. And Savannah notably doesn't produce blue. So you already have 4 Inkmoth Nexuses, a forest, and a Pendelhaven, and a wasteland that don't contribute to having blue. So it actually makes a lot of sense to go and put that into the sideboard. I actually think that's really good deck building and just a really heads-up play. The Swords to Plowshares gives you a lot more game versus maybe decks like Delver and Death and Taxes, where you can just bring in a pile of removal, and they have to also constantly live in fear of your combo finish as well as your controlling element. Basic lands are good. This is something I am a huge, huge believer of in Legacy. If you can put a basic into your deck and it doesn't cost you much, do so. One of my co-hosts, Brian Koval, is just so insistent on playing decks that just have basic lands because you dodge so much random stuff like Wasteland and Back to Basics and Blood Moon by having access to that. And occasionally even crazier cards. I like the sideboard here. We have a lot of flexibility in what we can do for matchups. We have a decent number of answers for specific things, and then just a few generically powerful cards, like Uro and Veil of Summer and Force of Vigor. So let's go ahead and jump right into the matches. YouTube folks, if you would take a minute, consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already, especially if you're regularly watching my content. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't so important to my growth as a creator right now. Round 1. I have a turn 2 Infect creature. I have a Stifle for turn 1 and a Force of Will. I'm game for this. So our opponent has mulligan to 6. Yeah, let's let this one of Stifle just like savage someone here. Oh god. I'm really tempted to just pass the turn again and like try to eat this land with Stifle. I don't know that that's correct, but it's what I'm gonna do. I want it. I'm hungry. Let's go. And I'm not gonna brainstorm first. I like the cards that are in my hand. And I want to be able to pitch this brainstorm to Force of Will. So we may be looking at a combo deck of some kind. Based on this sequencing, my gut says we're playing against Show and Tell, and they were... No, they wouldn't have fetched to Impulse at instant speed. It was one bottom, one top. That's not a bad draw. Yeah, Scale Up is like a +5 pump spell for 1 mana. It's a little different than that, but it's pretty strong. I don't know. Most of the time when my opponent has cast a Scale Up, I've died. So, like, yes, there's a downside to it, but I'm not actually sure how big that downside actually is. So now it's more likely that we're playing against something like Ant. Yeah, I'm just gonna let that resolve. DNT is playable. The data from the last 2 challenges have put DNT at approximately a 30% win rate, though. So, or I guess, I think the first data set showed DNT specifically, and the second one was Vildex, and Vildex really didn't perform well. So I don't know if any one thing in particular happened, but recent DNT players are struggling. Yeah, I don't have the data pulled up right now or anything, but it was enough where like 2 weeks in a row I was like, oh, that's not good. Now, obviously, the average Death and Taxes player is way worse than like the top couple of Death and Taxes players, but the gulf isn't so big that I expected the overall data set to look like that. Like, the data you're getting is from players who are willing to like sign up for events and play in challenges. Scale Up plus Invigorate is 10, and we have Force of Will backup. Don't mind if I do. Is it this easy? I'm going to go ahead and fetch now. My opponent represented a Spell Pierce and then didn't do it. You can gain life. It's that easy. So this is kind of awkward because there is a world where our opponent is just playing a snow control deck, and there's also a world where our opponent is playing Ant. So how do we sideboard in that world where we're not 100% sure what our opponent is playing? First thing I'm going to do is hit up MTG Goldfish and see if they have any results. Matt underscore 1205. Results with Mono Red Prism. I don't think they're playing that. I feel pretty confident that they're not playing that. I think I'm gonna board for show and tell. They say, I take out, FenrusCloud says, I take out what I call my combo shell. Vines gets boarded out. We don't need creature protection in the matchup, and it's too slow. Okay, that makes sense to me. I take out 3 Ink Moths for the latter reason as well. Oh, that's kind of crazy. I would not have thought of that. Leave in 1 if possible for end of turn crop rotation. In come all your counters and crop rotation and Caracas. So Fluster fails. Oh, there's no crop rotation here. Okay, so that's just not part of the plan anymore. So that means I should board Flusterstorm Veil, and that's probably it. So maybe we'll go Vines and 1 Ink Moth then. And this is also not very disastrous if our opponent just ends up being a snow control deck. I think I like this. I think Force of Vigor is not doing the thing enough of the time where I keep it. So let's try this and see how it feels. Hope you all are having a great Tuesday, or maybe like Thursday-ish for the YouTube folks. My opponent has mulliganed. My hand is medium minus. I have a counterspell technically, but I have this Brainstorm that is going to fix this hand, so I think I keep this one. It's possible that this is supposed to go back because, like, I do have 5 lands. Yeah, Lord Darkview, I kind of agree with that, but is Vines better than Oko? Like, Oko is bullshit and just wins games. Like, it doesn't matter what you're playing against. It clocks really hard. Alright, my opponent is now playing around Stifle. I love it. And I feel pretty confident that we are paired against Ant now. I don't know if I am supposed to Brainstorm main phase or not. I think I like doing that. And I am going to want to fetch with 100% certainty. Unless I draw something that allows me to win if I play this Inkmoth next turn. So I think I'm going to Brainstorm before playing my land. Specifically, Double Pump Spell does that. Okay, we're just going to throw fetchables back into the deck. Getting the Glistener Elf is pretty great. I don't like that Daze is my only piece of interaction here. Ooh. Okay, I have a couple of Ink Moths. So if my opponent is a Storm deck, They're using a lot of resources to deal with my board in hand, rather than like what I actually have. Oh, they're going. All right. I have to have a pretty specific set of cards to go off here. This last card has to be Infernal Tutor. Yep. So this can be for an ad nauseum. Ooh, Dark Confidants are in there. They're not doing so great with this ad nauseum. They need a little bit more mana. Oh. I don't think I'm dead. Not this turn, anyway. Sentinel Tower is very interesting. Alright, so there's a pedal gone. Yeah, I have seen Sentinel Tower in play once or twice before. It is not a popular inclusion. Alright, so they're going for a Lotus Petal Brainstorm in an attempt to just win. I really just want to find, like, a Noble Hierarch. I just want to be able to attack my opponent for 1 actual damage. And kill them. So our opponent is going to discard a handful of cards here. They've got to discard 5. And then I'll spin the wheels with this Brainstorm and see what I can do. The counterspell's not so much good here. Alright. Bob's gone. Alright, so is Duress, Echoing Truth, and a Polluted Delta. Alright, there's my Noble Hierarch. Does my opponent have a deterministic win next turn? No, they don't really have mana. So this Noble Hierarch is going to be how I'm going to win. My counterspells don't matter. I guess let's brainstorm. I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking to do with this. This Flusterstorm is dead. This second Inkmoth isn't good. Zerk gives Trample? Zerk gives Trample, so I can just win by attacking with Noble Hierarch next turn. I can also just play Inkmoth Nexus and Noble Hierarch and have 2 different lethal threats. Now, the game ends on my next turn, so Berserking Xantid Swarm doesn't matter. No, so the way Xantid Swarm, when it attacks, defending player can't cast spells this turn. So if this game lasts 1 turn, Berserking that doesn't matter. I think I'm going to get rid of Fluster and hide Berserk. Then I'm going to play Inkmoth and Noble Hierarch. Alright. I'm F6ing. And you kill me. A good Brainstorm potentially just kills me. Yeah, I'd love to see some of the Infect regulars, especially Sam, in here. I would have thought about this a little more. I probably could have gotten Nick Miller to hop in with me. But I just kind of did this off the cuff. Like, I just decided this morning that I was going to do this. I guess my opponent, like, has to go for it now that they tapped the Xantid Swarm, right? Like, they have to kill me this turn, because otherwise Noble Hierarch attacks in for 1. That was their draw for turn. Ah, shit. Cabal Ritual's good here. That's a Past in Flames, which I assume kills me. I haven't finished doing the math. So Storm is 5. Storm is 6. And Fatal Push for Storm 7. Yeah, this kills me. I can also just cast 1 cantrip off the Underground Sea. That works too. There's a second Infernal Tutor in here. That's Storm 9, and now they cast Tendrils and I die. Womp womp. You are, well, I guess the flex for Storm count is totally acceptable, but you already knew all of those. Alright, so our draw was kind of slow, and we knew that in keeping it. We only had a Daze as disruption, but we had lethal presented 2 different ways for turn 4. That's pretty acceptable all in all. Alright, now that I specifically know that we're playing against Ant. Cards like Cage, Surgical, and Rest in Peace become much better. Let's see if Storm is in this guide. Take out the combo shell for the same reasons as versus Show and Tell. Board in all counters. Force of Vigor are very good versus the new build, and so is Pithing Needle. Graveyard is not super useful anymore as they no longer play Past in Flames. Well, we just got Past Inflamed, so IDK about that. I wonder if by the newer builds he's specifically referring to, like, Bryant's style of TES with all the Wishclaw Talismans and stuff. I think I want these cards. And tapping out for this is, like, horrifying. I think I'm going to drop this, keep Oko. Drop 2 Ink Moths. I think I like something like this. Yeah, so I don't know how much of the sideboard guide and document FenrusCloud updated. Okay. This is a pretty medium-looking hand that if I get Thoughtseized and lose this Blighted Agent, I just, like, don't do anything. I think I'm going to ship this one. this is not really what I'm looking for either. I guess a daze plus surgical is something. I could daze this, but I think I just let it resolve. If they take my Blighted Agent, which is my threat, I just crop rotation instead for an Inkmoth Nexus and go to town that way. The one of Inkmoth Nexus has arrived. Second daze isn't bad. It's not exactly crazy or anything, but it's relevant. The dream is probably to daze a relevant spell and then surgical it. This is a hand where the Become Immense would probably be very, very good. I'm fueling the graveyard pretty well, and I don't have a lot of pressure. There's worlds where I'll play some Vintage Cube. I'm not 100% sure. Just kind of like in terms of my time. Oh, hello. That's what I'm looking for. My limited videos don't perform particularly well compared to my legacy videos. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to invest too much time in that unless like I just casually have the time. And I just recorded a bunch of Supreme drafts. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to play any Vintage Cube. I enjoyed the Supreme draft quite a bit. Belchmaster, thank you very much for throwing your support this way this month. I really do appreciate it. Goodbye, Become Immense. I knew thee well. So this means that I can't attack this turn, but I think this mana is pretty important. I am on the slippery slope to death. Okay, look, there are things that I can do in order to return this hand and do something, but they are all very bad for me. So I miss 1 point of damage this turn, but I recoup that immediately next turn. Yeah, it's a shame our opponent had another discard, because this Become Immense would be lethal next turn. I technically have 2 pieces of interaction up, but they're pretty weak. The more cards my opponent has sideboarded in, the better my position is. But their deck is pretty close to their game 1 scenario now. And most of it is just like rituals and gas spells and disruption. Not great, but every fatal push sort of card that they draw right now potentially keeps them from going off. I don't think us Legacy regulars get to make the decisions about what's going on in Modern. I somehow think that's unwise. I mean, yeah. I will not sacrifice a land. Yeah, so like that Chain of Vapor, for example, is a card that doesn't work towards actively killing me. Hey, FenrusCloud, welcome. Red Hot, thank you very much for throwing your support this way. I really do appreciate it. There is a world where I can, like, sit back and just hold up some dazes and whatnot, but I think I need to keep clocking. Like, I am scared. Actually, I probably don't want to always yield to that Noble Hierarch for Pendelhaven reasons, specifically. So, we're in Game 3 currently. My opponent knows about these, so they can try to navigate through. The next turn I have Activate Inkmoth, Pendelhaven, Pump it, attack in for 3. So I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock. Yeah, as a Death and Taxes player, I have been on the wrong side of Infect many, many times. I haven't played that matchup much recently. Like, I don't know how much better it feels with Skyclave Apparition being a thing. But I, like, very much used to not be favored. Oh, Rockonatus, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It was such a huge quality of life update. I'm so glad to have this. Like, this was a great stream upgrade. The next one is a stream arm, so I'm currently applying my my donation goals towards or not my donation goals, like my donation deck list money towards that specifically. What if I just deal 2 damage this turn? That puts my opponent at 6. Then I have 7, 8, 9 next turn. I would need 1 more piece of pump. It's kind of interesting. Oh no, I guess I just have like the Noble Hierarch mana. JK, I can do it all. Well, I can do it all except hold up the second days. Fatal Push would kind of savage me here. But again, every card like Fatal Push they have is a card that's not killing me. Alright, so I am now presenting lethal infect damage for next turn. And I shut off some Past in Flames based lines. There are worlds where I can surgical extraction them, but I don't exactly have brilliant targets, and the 2 life might be more relevant than anything else. I find it a little miraculous that this game is still going on. Like, I felt so dead the whole time, and we ended up getting there. Round 2, the hand is okay. I don't think this one is overly impressive, but we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And now the plan is going to be go fast because we have gotten paired against what I presume is either Hogak or Dredge. Do combo players just have this avatar? Is that a rule that I was not made aware of? All right. This turn's actually super interesting. I can play Noble Hierarch to have more mana. I can try to cut my opponent off of their own mana. I can play Inkmoth in hopes of getting my fastest possible goldfish. I think I just like Wastelanding. I think I just like Wastelanding. So I think Wastelanding and turn 2 Hierarch are pretty close. Or sorry, turn 1 Hierarch. But the Wasteland play has such high upside. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, we found the upside. So now I just have to think, like, how am I going to win this game the fastest? So scale up plus Vines of the Vast Wood is the answer to that. So I need green, green, green in order to do that. And I have all of that already. So that means it's fine to play Inkmoth Nexus. It's fine to play Inkmoth. I'm going to go ahead and play Glistener Elf. I'm going to hold up Noble Hierarch, because that means I can Brainstorm or Vines of the Vastwood if things get saucy somehow. I don't know what exactly my opponent would have that would target one of my creatures. So we're likely playing against Hogak, not Dredge. Oh, why would you reveal your hand there? Why would you do that and like give me that information? Like, I was pretty sure it was Hogak anyway, but like, don't do that. Oh no, we don't get to play with Bazaar in Legacy. All right. So I'm gonna guess that Hogak is not in this side. Oh, it is Dredge slash Hogak. Out with the combo shell. Inkmoth is better than Glistener Elf though, so consider how many you are boarding out. Increase your counter count to stop their creature. Discard spells from resolving. I also board in Veil of Summer. Rest in Peace and Grafdigger's Cage are the best sideboard cards. All right. So that means I want Rest in Peace and Savannah. Oh, also, like, last round, did I board in Rest in Peace without boarding in Savannah? God, I hope not, but I think I did. Grafdigger's Cage is great. Blusterstorm and Surgical are great. I think I'm going to junk this Stifle. Yeah, so I had 4 mana sources for it instead of like 11 or something. We'll trim some ink moths and some vines, and then that's 5. The Stifle is going to have some targets, but I don't know that that card is going to be consistently good. There. So my brain is thinking about Swords to Plowshares and Veil of Summer, because like those are cards that like very much have text. Like Veil of Summer stopping discard spells is pretty strong. I don't know about these. They just feel slow. Yeah, absolutely. So this is FenrusCloud's sideboard guide, not my own work. But it is a wonderful starting point. I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. I have Force of Will for the most broken thing my opponent can do, and I have a threat and a pump spell. I assume this gets Force of Willed. I think I forced this pitch to Brainstorm because I'm happy with most of the hand, and I want Ponder to specifically fish for another pump spell. Like that, in addition to just being part of their engine, that card also just jumps in the way of a Glistener Elf for a turn, which is not irrelevant. So Abrupt Decay is the read that I have on my opponent here. That can't be dazed. So I think I just attack in for 1, see if that works, and then deploy Blighted Agent in my second main phase. I think if my opponent has the Decay, they're supposed to use it on their turn because of like Veil of Summer very specifically. But I might have the read wrong. Oh, okay, they just don't have it. Or they're not willing to use it. Yeah, Cabal Therapy resolves. Alright, they hit Invigorate. So this time I am looking at... Oh, beautiful. I love this. I like where I'm at here. It's really interesting that my opponent kept this hand. I guess they weren't expecting Hedron Crab to get Force of Willed. I mean, I guess their keep makes sense if, like, they have the Cabal therapy, they assume they're going to put something in their graveyard that's relevant. It's probably fine. I wouldn't say that I have a lot of plans. I have one big plan. So my girlfriend and I rented a cabin out in the middle of nowhere that we're going to be visiting right after New Year's. We're going to spend a couple of days. I think 3 days there. That's my one big plan. My opponent knows about my days, so they're going to get a 2-for-1 here. Yeah, we haven't gotten like anything close to a vacation. Or they are ignoring that and just naming something that can kill them next turn. I respect that. I do. Don't know who we're gonna get on. We'll get someone on. I think I'm gonna split this up. I'm gonna put this here. Choose this creature. You can gain some life. And I have double days up currently. I can hardcast one. We just savaged that opponent. Oh, Slod. So I guess I still have double days up if I play Hierarch and then just attack with Blighted Agent. But the thing is, if instead of Dryad Arbor, they have, like, say, an Abrupt Decay or something, much softer to that, and I get blown out a little bit harder. So I'm not sure if that's correct, but it's something I wasn't thinking about. We're starting round 3 off with a mulligan. I have no lands here. Keep. I think I need my mana a ton with this. I'm going to throw back this Daze. The last couple of times I've played against this player, they've played like different decks and they've all been a little bit random. But I kind of feel like I'm going to need to go. And Fenris, thank you very much for throwing your support this way. Like, I appreciate the updates to the sideboard guide. That was awesome support. The financial stuff means a lot. I'm really making a push towards better content creation right now. And I've gotten overwhelming support from the community since I started doing that. All right, so we are playing against a Daze deck. So it could be, oh yeah. So it looks like we might be playing against like a Daze Ant deck. Oh, I see. Felchmaster actually gifted that sub. Well, thank you, Felchmaster, for that continued support. Wow, this turn's kind of weird. I kind of foresee myself pitching Ponder to Force of Will and playing Inkmoth Nexus. I guess this is the turn where I ask myself, am I winning this game via regular damage or with infect damage? I'm pretty far away from winning this with either one of those. I think I'm just going to pass the turn, and I can remake this decision next turn. Yeah, Doomsday is reasonable as well. I just recently got by a Daze Ant deck, so that was on my mind. Badlands? 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 I'm like legit not sure what my opponent is doing anymore. I bet this Oko is just gonna get like fucking dazed though. Like my opponent has left it in my hand twice. But I'm casting it anyway. If my opponent uses resources on answering this Oko, then I will kill them with the combo finish. Yep, alright. What would the red be for, though? Fuck, that card. Alright. That is just a little bit too late. So my opponent is just playing Grixis Pile of Disruption? No, I think this this Inkmoth Nexus is very important to my chances of winning. It's going to dodge Sorcery Speed, Dreadhorde Arcanist removal. That draw's really awkward. I don't think I'm supposed to hold up 5 mana for Force of Will, because then my opponent just attacks in, duresses me, and like that's that. Don't do it. Shit. So this is probably the point where I have just lost. But I want to play this out a bit more. I just feel very uncomfortable about what my opponent's doing. And if I can get a little bit more information, like learn if they have planeswalkers, learn if they have a combo finish or something. I saw, I think it was Maxtortion. Well, that's a thing. I saw Maxtortion messing around with a Doomsday that had Dreadhorde Arcanist, but I thought those were all in the sideboard. No. Do I play this? Doesn't seem like it. Hopefully we can just like play an Uro, it resolves, and everything is fine. What's Daze, and why would I have to worry about that? There's a Doomsday list from the challenge with Dreadhorde Arcanist main. I mean, if that's what this is, like, I feel not good against it. Oh, yep, okay. They are Doomsdaying. Alright, the good news is I will get to look at their deck list. The bad news is I am dead. I thought Max Torsion was smart for trying that in the sideboard, but I guess like main deck with a little bit more disruption than normal is just totally fine as well. Man, it's going to be weird sideboarding against this, because things that are really good against Arcanist are going to be really bad versus Doomsday. I also just, like, can't really save up cards for the combo. Like, my hand is not safe. Hmm. I guess I should have conceded to the Doomsday. I didn't realize it was going to take this long. I thought they had things figured out. Yeah, so it looks like there's 3-ish Dreadhorde Arcanists in here. Pyroblast main deck. Alright. I think I can save. Guess I could fetch and try again. I guess there's a few worlds where I'm not just immediately dead. I have no way to present lethal next turn with this. I will go ahead and ship it in here. We could play out the next 2 minutes of the match in order to like make them show it to us, but I feel pretty confident that I'm just dead. All right. How much am I sideboarding? That's a really difficult question. And this deck is pretty unique in the different angles that it's attacking from. Stifle's hilarious. We're keeping Stifle. I don't know how much time I have for some of this sort of stuff. All right. Let's try to make it so that we don't lose to Dreadhorde Arcanist. And hope that my combo and counterspell can stop the other stuff some portion of the time. This is too many cards. I probably can't board in all of this. I don't know that I like Berserk. My opponent just shredded my hand. I don't know that trying to keep something that relies me to have multiple cards is a good idea. And crop rotation is a little bit less good than normal. I think I don't like the Uro. I think I will trim one land since I am bringing in a Savannah. Berserk kills Dreadhorde Arcanist. That's an interesting way to look at that card. Am I just like overboarding on these then? They just have like a pile of lightning bolts and stuff too. So like Vines has more text than it normally does. This is kind of hard to board for. I don't know, like what portion of the time am I going to have my mana available at the right moments? All right, I'm going to revisit this when I have a little bit more time to think. I don't think that what I just did here was correct, but it's what I did. This is what I'm doing. This is going to let me play Blighted Agent on turn 2 around days. Yeah, this deck scares the living bejesus out of me. Like, I do not know how to board against this deck, generally speaking. Feels like playing against Splinter Twin of Days of Old, where you have to respect the combo finish while also respecting the control role that your opponent can play. This deck's spicy. I like this one a lot. So I'm going to start with the Blighted Agent. And follow it up with, I think, Glistener Elf. Maybe it's not, there's like Lightning Bolts and Pyroblasts and stuff where this might die. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and follow up with Glistener Elf. I want to diversify threats if possible. This is just a time, though, where, like, if our opponent just goes Dark Ritual Doomsday, I'd probably lose. Fuck me. Alright. I guess that's happening. Alright, so now I need to try to win through their 5 cards plus Doomsday pile. If they're going to try to go this turn, my days can likely disrupt them. And if they're not trying to go this turn, hopefully Wastelanding Underground Sea is a pain in the butt for them. There's also a world where I like play Noble Hierarch and attack with Noble Hierarchs and just kill them in 2 turns that way. Rather than do anything else. I don't think I'm dead. I don't think I'm as dead as I thought I was when I talked about Dark Ritual Doomsday being like the spooky line. Oddly, in this spot, the Vines of the Vastwood that are currently sitting in the sideboard would be really good. Like, kick a Vines, attack in for 5. GG. Doot, 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 doot. My opponent has to figure out how to beat the highest number of pieces of interaction that I can have. And I guess they also theoretically want to not die to me attacking, if all of that is possible. Alright, so a braid is something that I should be thinking about. Alright, so this turn starts off there. I feel pretty confident about that. Then I need to play a Hierarch. I think I'm going to end up winning this one faster with Infect, because Invigorate is more of a live draw off the top. I'm going to... I already have a days through their days. But I think since I'm only planning on attacking with one creature, I'm just going to hold this Glistener Elf in hand to represent another card. It's not bad. Not great, but it's not bad. I mostly just, like, really, really, really want a pump spell. There's a world where I want to play Glistener Elf so that I can attack with 3 different creatures next turn, but it would make me a little bit worse against something like a Flusterstorm if that got boarded in. I think I'll go ahead and play it. Alright. Man, maybe the attack with Noble Hierarch lines would have been okay. Alright, so... Oh, god damn it. Cavern. Alright. Uncounterable. Womp womp. Yeah, it's weird. Since they took a double Street Wraith and fetch land based line, it actually would have been better for me to attack with Noble Hierarch, but I don't think I could have seen... Like, I don't know that that was the right line a couple turns ago, because the Infect damage represents a faster clock and is better if I top deck a pump spell. So, we have a pretty good looking hand here. I'll be keeping this one. The big question with this hand is, am I leading on Noble Hierarch on turn 1, or am I just leading on Glistener Elf? If I lead on Glistener Elf... Oh! Well. A Chancellor. We are not good against Reanimator with this hand. I'm just gonna double check. I don't have a Caracas. Yeah, I don't have a Caracas. Yeah, I think I need to throw away this Noble Hierarch and then hope to play a threat next turn and combo off the following turn. If my opponent just has it and they go for it, I'm probably dead. Urborg. That's interesting. Okay, that's a good draw. So I have 8 worth of pump. I play Inkmoth Nexus and then something else. I am representing 10 Infect next turn. So that's pretty ideal. I guess I want to play the creature with evasion this turn. Oh, no Entomb. Lucky. Chat? Okay, I guess it is still Reanimator. Like, basic mountain is weird. Yeah, I wonder if my opponent is, like, trying to play a long game against Infect. So if my opponent has something weird like a Fatal Push, this is their chance to do it. Oh yeah, like, please tap out for Entomb. I am so good with this. I mean, we already have the win on board. This was me just doing it in a way that's safer. This is 10 Infect, split across 2 creatures, and it also takes my opponent off of interaction. I think the fear of counter magic kept us alive there. I think, like, I mean, I know that if my opponent went for it, we would have lost. Alright, I want Rip. I want Savannah. I want Grafdigger's Cage. I want Surgical Extraction, Flusterstorm, and probably Veil. Don't think I want any of this stuff. The problem is already in play when this stuff happens. See. Alright. Out with the combo shell, in with all the counters. So, the combo shell means vines. Three ink moths. Okay. So that's the starting point, and then I'll figure things out from here. Stifle is kind of hilarious, but I don't know that it's going to be very good when I'm on the draw. I think Uro is perhaps not very good on the draw as well. My opponent showed Massacre Worm, which is kind of spooky. I'm gonna take one more look over things. Crop rotation doesn't get, like, Bog or Caracas here. It's a little bit unfortunate, but if my opponent sees that with discard, they might take it, respecting those things. Yeah, Berserk is probably not crazy good either. Berserk gets a little worse with Vines out, but like an Invigorate plus a Berserk still just kills on turn 2, so eh. I don't know that this hand is good enough on the draw. I would really like a hand with Force of Will, Surgical, or Cage, like way more than this, or a hand that like actually represents a turn 2 Goldfish or turn 3 Goldfish, and this hand doesn't do that. Maybe this hand is good enough. I don't think it is. All right. I will keep this. Your Cabal Therapy resolves. That's a fair name. Very glad I didn't keep 2 and get 2 for 1 there. So I am going to try not to daze this turn, because if I don't daze, I just play Rest in Peace. Oh, that's awesome for me. I don't know if my opponent will actually have answers to Rest in Peace. No, I think Glistener Elf makes a lot of sense to name. My opponent is off to a slower start, and based on their hand here, they're looking to ignore my counter magic. And so if they can ignore my counter magic as this game goes long, then they need to stop the game from ending. Burning Wish? That's kind of crazy. You Burning Wish for something that answers Rest in Peace? I mean, like, I know the answer is, like, yes, you can, but do you have something? Is more the texture of my actual question. Stronghold Gambit. Well, shit. I need to draw a creature, huh? Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so as long as I hold a creature, that doesn't do anything. Alright, so I need to not play Blighted Agent. Another Burning Wish? So now they can go for a counterspell? Or not a counterspell, like some piece of discard? Hmm. This deck is fucking wild. Massacre. Well. We're just taking our time here. I get. All right, this is what we're doing. This is why Oko's in the deck, right? Pyroblast, get fucked. No, okay. No, no, I don't. I don't think so. There's some crazy stuff happening on the other side of the battlefield. There's worlds where I get to like scale up an elk in order to win this match. Needle still names Inkmoth Nexus, which is kind of a big deal. I mean, opponent's deck list is sweet. Like, 100% on board with what they're doing over there. Scale up Berserk kills? No, it doesn't kill. It's darn close. So that's 12 damage. That would shut this off, though? This is wild. Alright, Boseiju is off. I will make a new food. I will destroy the old food. So I have days up. Boseiju is no longer a land that produces mana. And we get there. Like, mad respect for opponent's brew, though. This is sort of wild. All right, round 5. What do we got? This is going to be a keep. This brainstorm can drastically change how I play this game, but I think this is basically always how I'm going to start. Elves? Elves. So Blighted Agent is how I win this one. I could just play it this turn, which I kind of like. I can just play it this turn and then try to find an Invigorate next turn to just go off and win. I think I'm goldfishing here, and so I'm going to respect the speed of my goldfish. There's worlds where brainstorming and playing Noble Hierarch is totally fine, because it lets me find a counterspell for Glimpse specifically. The Cradle is the scariest thing my opponent can have. That's fine, though. Alright, let's find Invigorate. I like killing elves. Oh, no good stuff, huh? Just bad stuff? That's rough. Now, because I played Inkmoth next turn, or last turn, a bunch of my options are actually kind of limited. Yuck. I probably need to have a counterspell available for next turn, which means I need to hold Brainstorm up. Yeah. Alright. I'm going to throw back land. What if I attack with Glistener Elf? No, they'd probably just block with Metal Sentinel and make me, like, use a pump spell. God, I wish I wouldn't have played Inkmoth last turn. It felt correct at the time, but I didn't expect to need triple colored mana. Oh. Green spells? Green spells. Well, shit. Okay. This is not good. Allosaurus Shepherd is bullshit. Ban Allosaurus Shepherd every time I'm playing blue decks, and then let it exist every other time. My opponent does probably need to actually kill me this turn, though. There's a very good chance that my Brainstorm can get me into things that kill them next turn. They don't have something like a Heritage Druid yet. Alright. So I need to find a pump spell with this Brainstorm. I have 7 showing damage, 1 with Inkmoth, 6 with Scaled Up Blighted Agent. So any pump spell does it. I don't think I am supposed to Brainstorm now. I think I'm supposed to just clear the top of the library, get 1 deeper, and then do it. Stifle. Alright. Please. Please, deck. I need this. Oh my god, why can't we draw pump spells? Ah! And I, like, oh god, this is so bad. My opponent can also just, like, activate Allosaurus Shepherds twice. So my Stifle doesn't even do anything. Right, it's 5? No, it's 6. Hold on. 3, 6, 7. It's 6, 7. Oh, no, they can't activate twice. Maybe the Stifle does do something. Okay. But how do I win? I don't really win. I guess I hide the scale up. Back for 1. Hold up Stifle. Stifle Allosaurus Shepherd's activated ability. Then somehow survive another turn? Like... Oh, okay, that means that they can just activate it twice, probably. Alright, I blame the deck for this one. The draw pile was not in the order that let me murder people. Allosaurus Shepherd, like, just doing back-breaking amounts of work. $14 mana, huh? Green Sun for X equals 8 that can't be countered. Solves. However... Well, I don't know. I might still just be dead. I assume my opponent just, like, untaps an elf, taps Nettle Sentinel and Heritage Druid, and then activates Deuter, and I die. Rockonatas, don't you go giving them ideas. Don't you tell them how to make green creatures better. So... yeah, now my opponent just crashes in with a whole bunch of stuff. Alright, I'm done. I'm done. They've got me. It's deterministic already. They're playing with their food. I am the food. Alright. Do we have elves in the old sideboard guide? No, it's not a whole category. Alright, so I have to figure out how to do this on my own. So, Cage seems good. I don't know whether or not I'm actually supposed to Swords to Plowshares. So, Swords to Plowshares is a card that's good against elves, but is that my plan? If I play Swords to Plowshares, it comes at the cost of some other card that gets my opponent dead. Like, Vines is not... So, what cards don't I like? Maybe that's how I should start this time. So I don't really like this. Vines are kind of whatever. Crop Rotation is kind of whatever. Glistener Elf is kind of whatever. So the question here is, like, do I want to board 1 or 2 cards, or do I want to board, like, 7 cards? Because I could just, like, swap Uro for Cage. And and then consider playing a Flusterstorm. But I don't know, like, maybe Allosaurus Shepherd makes it so that that's not even good. I think when I'm on the play, I'm going to try to kill my opponent. And then when I'm on the draw, I'm going to board in the Swords of Plowshares in the Savannah. And I don't think the Flusterstorm. His hand attacks for 3 on turn 2. Which is really 7. So it just has like a turn 3 Goldfish if my opponent doesn't block the Glistener Elf either time. Okay. And if I put my opponent in the Abyss where they're like throwing a creature in front of the boss every turn, I think I'm fine with where that goes for me. All right. Card's obnoxious. Firewood Symbiote is also a problem here. I can't get through that. JK, I can get through that. I think it's okay to cast this Brainstorm pre-combat. I can find Berserk, which would be cool. Got him indeed. And this is why I wanted to just, like, go as fast as possible when I'm on the play. Don't know what my opponent is thinking about. Yeah, Reaple Cheap, you're here for round 5. This is game 2 versus Elves. We're currently 3-1 in matches. We're about to get this one. Game 3 will obviously be harder. Choose you. Not related, but Reaple Cheap, at some point I want to message you to borrow some opposition agents, if that would be cool. I got a Dead Guy Ale donation deck list that uses opposition agents. And I haven't tried yet, but I'm not sure if Card Hoarder is letting me borrow those things yet. Alright, so on the draw I want these. Like, Glistener Elves get way worse on the draw. There's just, like, so many things that can hop in front of the bus. So, like, things that I'd be looking at maybe cutting are Glistener Elves, the Oko, the Sylvan Library, and the Vines of the Vastwood. I can just cut Forest for Savannah without really thinking about that. That's easy. Then this part's harder. Oko's only medium versus elves. Like, Oko's great versus fair decks, but elves just go so wide. I think I'm gonna junk that. I don't know that I have time for Sylvan Library to do Sylvan Library stuff. And then I'm gonna junk 2 Glistener Elves. I think I need to keep my counters. Like, Allosaurus Shepherd is a kick in the nether regions for sure, but I don't know that I can stop them. I cannot play them when they're so good against everything else. I'm going to keep this hand. This hand is a little bit sketchy. Oh, I like that. Oh, JK, we found a second land. It's not sketchy anymore. So I was going to say it's a little bit sketchy because if I get Savannah, I don't have blue for Ponder, and I, like, kind of need it. Oh. Holy shit, that draw, though. That was so good. Goodbye, little tree friend. So now any land is lethal, right? 2 mana for Kicked Vines, then Berserk. Or just Invigorate Berserk. That's cool, too. Is there anything that stops this? I guess my opponent, like, jump blocking stops it, but... yeah, that's, like, the only world. Ooh, use Pendle first, and it's GG. Fenris is so smart. Oh, just no blocks either? Well, if we're murdering, let's murder a lot, not just a little bit. Ain't no kill like overkill. Yeah, it's like every time I play like a Death and Taxes League with someone, and they're like, I think I want to do this. And I'm like, hold on a second. What if instead you do the thing that's good? Yeah, that was a slick line. Like, that was very good. All right, so thoughts on the deck list. Deck list felt good. I do not want to get paired against Dreadhorde Arcanist decks playing this. Like, if my opponent has a recurring source of removal, I'm spooked. But otherwise, I feel like I have a lot of tools that let me wiggle through difficult spots. I have a decent amount of selection available. One thing that's kind of interesting to me is that this deck is only playing 2 Ponders. I've really considered 4 Ponders an absolute mainstream staple of any blue deck for quite some time. But this deck is trying to go a little bit bigger than the Infect decks of old and putting some things like Oko and Uro in that can just win the game on their own. And so I understand cutting the Ponders. I felt like we had good sideboard options in every round, or that we didn't necessarily need to be sideboarding because our general overall plan was okay. So some of the numbers might look a little kind of funky at first glance, but based on how things played out, I really liked what was going on here, and I hope you all enjoyed this. YouTube folks, if you've made it this far, please consider liking the video, and if you really thought something about this was cool, leave me a comment. That sort of stuff really helps out with the algorithm. I'm trying to game the system right now and get a few more views on the YouTube end.